ever had one of those moments, when you start thinking about what really defines you?
Like what makes you you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is the job title, the hobbies, the people in your life. What happens when those things, the things we build our identities around, well, what happens when those are gone?
It's a question a lot of us would rather not think about.
Right. But that's actually the question we're tackling today, head on. And we're using Ernie Vecchio's book, If Not Who, Then What, as our guide.
Now, Vecchio is a trauma psychologist, and in this book, he tells the story of Sam.
Sam was a professional cyclist.
Until a really bad injury, career-ending, in fact, forced him to rethink, well, everything.
And that's what I found so fascinating about Vecchio's approach. It's like, here's this guy, Sam, dealing with this incredibly specific and dramatic event, but this psychological journey. That's universal.
It really is. In fact, what struck me most about Sam's story, especially at the beginning, was the raw, visceral sense of loss.
He must have been devastated.
Totally. But it goes even deeper than that. It wasn't just about the physical pain. It was the shattering of his identity. Vecchio captures this perfectly with a single question he asked Sam early on. What will you do now that you can no longer race?
Wow. I bet that hit hard.
It did. And Sam, he completely shuts down. He doesn't have an answer. And that's the crisis Vecchio talks about.
The if not who, then what crisis.
Exactly. Because when what we do is so closely tied to who we believe we are, well, that can be a dangerous place to be.
It's like the rug's been pulled out from under you. Everything you thought you knew about yourself is suddenly up in the air.
Exactly. And that's a very scary place to be. And that's something I think a lot of us can relate to, even if it's not as dramatic as a career-ending injury, right?
Absolutely.
We humans, we crave purpose. We're hardwired to seek meaning in what we do, how we fit into the world. So when those fundamental pieces are shaken, it triggers this kind of existential freefall.
And in Sam's case, the key to pulling out of that freefall, it was the realization that while cycling had been a huge part of his life, it wasn't the only Atarpakeva part.
Right. I mean, he was also a friend, a son, a husband.
He had all these other roles, other dimensions to his identity.
And that's the thing about identity. It's multifaceted. We're all made up of these different layers, like an onion, I guess you could say.
Okay, I can kind of see that.
And sometimes it takes a major upheaval, something that forces us to confront those hidden aspects of ourselves, those parts we may not even be aware of or that we've ignored, to discover who we really are.
It's like we have this shadow self, right? All those potentials just waiting to be explored.
Exactly.
So in a way, this crisis, this forced retirement from cycling, it was like, well, it was awful, but it also kind of opened up this whole new world of possibilities for Sam.
It did. And that's the amazing thing about the human spirit. Even in the face of incredible hardship, we have this remarkable ability to adapt, to grow, to uncover new facets of ourselves.
So how did Sam actually start to rebuild his sense of self after his accident? It wasn't like he just woke up one morning and bam, new identity, right?
No, not at all. It was a process. And a big part of that process, at least for Sam, seems to have been about really going inward. Vecchio mentions all these books Sam was reading, like deep stuff about the human shadow, ego death, even spiritual growth.
Wow, he really went for it.
He did. It's like he was searching for a new framework, a new way to understand himself and his place in the world now that the old one had been, well, shattered.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I imagine that kind of deep introspection, it can be pretty daunting, especially when you're already reeling from a major loss.
It definitely can be. And that's where having a guide, someone who's been there before, can be so helpful. You know, a mentor, a therapist, even a friend who's gone through something similar.
Someone who could offer a little perspective?
Exactly. Because when you're in the thick of it, it's hard to see the way forward. But someone who's been down a similar path, they can offer not just empathy, but also like practical roadmaps.
And for Sam, that roadmap eventually led him back to the world of cycling, but in a new way, right?
It did. He started mentoring young athletes, sharing his love of the sport, but also the hard-won wisdom he'd gained from his own experience. He even became an advocate for more accessible sporting facilities.
That's awesome.
It is, and it speaks to this powerful idea of finding purpose in contribution. Remember Vecchio's question, if not who, then what? Sam, he found his new what. And it wasn't about replacing cycling in his life. It was about aligning those core values, discipline, passion, the sheer joy of movement with new avenues for expression.
So in a way, this whole experience, as difficult as it was, it allowed him to tap into something that was always there. It's like you were saying earlier about the shadow self, all those hidden potentials.
Exactly. And it underscores a key takeaway from Sam's journey. This process of overcoming identity loss, it's not about bouncing back to who you were before. It's about integrating those experiences, those shifts in perspective, into a new, more resilient sense of self. It's like instead of trying to put the pieces back together the way they were, you're creating something new, something stronger, more interesting even.
More authentic.
More authentic, exactly. Right. And those experiences, even the painful ones, they become part of the tapestry of who you are.
They make you you.
They do. But here's the thing. You don't have to wait for a major crisis to start weaving that tapestry.
So what you're saying is we can all learn from Sam's experience, even if we're not, facing some huge life-altering event.
Absolutely. Because let's face it, life is full of change.
No kidding.
Right. Think about it. Graduating from college, landing that first job, maybe moving to a new city, starting a family, even just navigating the ups and downs of relationships.
Those are all big transitions.
They are. And they can all shake up our sense of self, make us question who we are, where we fit in.
And I guess if we haven't taken the time to really think about those things, to explore different sides of ourselves, like Sam was kind of forced to do, well, those transitions could hit even harder, couldn't they?
Exactly. It's like if our sense of self is built on this very narrow foundation, any kind of shift can feel like the whole thing's about to crumble. That's why it's so important to cultivate this, this multifaceted sense of self, and to do it now before the crisis hits.
So it's not about having a backup plan exactly. It's more about, building a stronger foundation from the inside out.
I like that. Building a stronger foundation. Because really, when you think about it, our who, it's not this fixed point. It's more like a story.
A story that's always being written.
Yes. And like any good story, ours are going to have twists and turns, moments of joy, moments of heartbreak. But it's those experiences, even the tough ones, that add depth, that make the story richer, more meaningful.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's not about avoiding the hard stuff. It's about learning from it.
Yeah.
Integrating it into who we are.
And realizing that change, even when it's scary or painful, it's also an opportunity. An opportunity to evolve, to become, a more nuanced, more interesting version of ourselves.
This has been amazing. Seriously, Vecchio's book, Sam's story, it's really got me thinking, even when things fall apart, even when we're faced with those what now moments, there's still this incredible capacity for growth, for transformation.
There really is. We're far more resilient than we often give ourselves credit for.
We are. And maybe that's the biggest takeaway here. It's not about clinging to who we were or who we thought we should be. It's about embracing the journey with all its messy, unexpected detours. And maybe discovering that the what that comes after the who can be even more fulfilling, more authentically us than what came before.
And on that note, I'd encourage everyone listening to check out Ernie Vecchio's If Not Who, Then What. It's a powerful read.
It really is. And who knows? It might just inspire you to start writing the next chapter of your own story. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.